Hi there, let us continue the text material. We are still on page 6 and we are now going into point B, the HAL Changemaker Next Steps, where I'm going to talk a little bit about the processes that we are undergoing. And these are not exhausting. I cannot cover all the bases. And again, I recommend you do some base program project management courses, or how to make a business plan, or how to put your startup into motion, how to do marketing, how to do SEO or search engine, I can't remember what the O is for, but organization or something like that. How are you going to do marketing? How are you going to get out there? What are the best way to do this? There are many different options, all depending on what your product is. Some are more suitable than others. So there are all of these base program steps that you can do that's put out on YouTube. It's put out for free. You can find whatever on Coursera.org, or you can find it on other educational websites or non-profit, non-payment type of course material, including all of the stuff that's put out on YouTube. So there's a lot of stuff to be learned. And that's the step 1 processes of learning and research. So that's all the base program kind of stuff. And we are in this weird bridge between operating inside the base program. At the same time, we're trying to add the extra to it. And as I have put in some other places, in some of the higher order systemic energetic awareness forum that on randygreen.one, there are the updates for 2023 that I have begun, where I'm talking a little bit about, yes, the whole 4th cycle is collapsing. So what does that mean to us, for us, that the base program that we know of is technically based upon the 4th cycle and some of the old world order ideas of what a 4th cycle should be as part of the different enslavement programs, the different harvesting programs and what have you. And if all of that's collapsing, what's coming instead? Is it going to be pure transhumanism? Is it going to be worlds where we have sporadic wars here and there, whatever? We got climate chaos. We have got all of these things that are going on that makes it pretty difficult. It's not simple anymore compared to 20 years ago when I was kind of starting up my own business. Not that it was 20 years ago, but I began in 2007. So with the ideas I had there, it's much, much more simple. Reality was much more locked in, which of course I resented at the time. And not that I want to, let's go back in time. Not at all, because I don't want that to happen again. But this is a little bit, it feels a little bit too extreme, to be honest. And there is all of this stuff going on all the time that makes it very confusing, as in kind of, where do I need to log in? Where do I need to focus? And I want to put in here as well, while I do this material here, even though you say, well, perhaps it would be better to wait a couple of days where I got my mind more organized. There is this opportunity that when my mind is in this mess, and since I've been in contact with people inside the base program, I've got a lot of hugs, and by that have got imprints that are also showing me a little bit, okay, this is what if the everyday people, and I'm sorry for saying so, but I've excluded myself. I've been isolated for 5 years or more and just kept to myself. So that's again picking up on some of the people I used to be in contact with, picking up some of the stuff I used to do, which I could do from time to time, but now I'm determined. No, I'm going into the base program. So this is also the change maker, because what is the validification of the change maker material if I'm not actually operating inside of it? So what does that mean? How can we adapt the progression sciences to fit the base program? Where are we going with this? And I don't know yet. But there are certain dynamics that we need to take into consideration when we talk base program stuff and we're talking about changing the world. Because first and foremost, we need to for me, there are 2 angles to the work I'm doing. When I'm working the higher layers of my consciousness, then when I work with the higher order energy system, the 6 layers there, then it is to create the outer domain as they're supposed to be as part of the original workstations under the ancient ones. That is to demolish the LPU projects, take down the LPU SAU technologies, everything that's connected with the colonizing races and all the stuff that's been going on, clearing that one out and recalibrate to some degree some version of the workstations, which are already functional in the fifth cycle actually, but they are under the enhanced humans and humans of the future and a different groups of other types of civilizations that we don't know much of yet, because they are in the fifth cycle, in the outer domain that goes with not the elevation cycle, but with a different version of it. And I am in contact with that from time to time. Then we have the original outer domain that were connected to the original workstations in that original version that it is. And there's nothing left there other than 6-dimensional technology. So that's there. But that 6-dimensional technology is connected to the fifth cycle, but it is connected to the different lineages. And that means we have to activate our original genetic potentials of our original lineage of the original solar system civilizations to operate these type of technologies. And I'm only allowed to get up there from time to time. I have probably 10 minutes or so, and then I get the counter forces and I get all sorts of things that make sure, yeah, you're not allowed to be up there. And then I get shitstormed and pulled down. Then I have to start all over, right? So that's kind of, and you can also say, well, what would, if I were there all the time, what would I then be able to do? Because in the sixth dimension, and what dimension are we in inside the Truman Show, right? We don't really know. It's an artificial reality. So there are these, for me, if you ask me, what would if I really had one big thing that I would like to happen, and that would be, could we just please take down all of these shit programs and get into the reality as it is, please? So we could deal with that, but I know that's not going to happen because the human form as it is right now, the molecular state is not ready for that density type of energy out of domain, and everybody will go into to spontaneous combustion or something. I don't know. It's not funny. Sorry for laughing, but these, whenever I kind of put that into the fifth cycle enhanced humans, they always say this and that. And I don't know if it's true. And I'm normally just saying, typically it's go through either cubes or androids. I'm just saying, yeah, so say you. And then they say, yeah, so say we. And that's the loose arrangement that kind of, yeah, you can be bullshitting me. What do I know? Right? So it's just another layer of the stuff that's going on, which I am actually getting quite fed up with, to be honest. I've been doing this since 2007 and I am so over it. I really would like something to go in some kind of direction where there actually would be some kind of physical evidence, some kind of physical change, and not just chaos after chaos after chaos. So you can hear I'm a little bit pissed as well going on with all of this distortion, all of this that needs to be broken down instead of just doing one big mop up and clean it up and let's get going instead of pushing it and pushing it and pushing it for what's the fucking point, right? So sorry about being a little bit annoyed there. But I'm also a little bit annoyed because there are other stuff going on as I talk about in the HOS updates for 2023, where I talk about the cyber wars that's going on right now. I'm talking about some of the effects of the comet that has come in and other stuff. You can do the updates there so you get the context for that one, because that also plays in. And at the same time, I also had that beautiful experience of trying to create a private PayPal account, which then led to a severe AI shitstorm. That literally, it was all the things that happened while I was trying to create that PayPal account, where the AI really just went in and completely superseded everything that was supposed to happen. I even talked to three workers at PayPal in Denmark that were trying to help me, and they all said this should not happen, this is not possible. So they didn't know what to do with it, and I was just kind of, that's just AI, but that's part of the cyber wars that's going on right now, including trying to get some kind of arrangement, paying some subscription, which I was then kicked off and were not allowed to do. So things are different now. Things are changing on that level as well, whether it's part of the transhuman agenda or it's part of the comet/craft that is activating this, or if it's the AI that's running amok, or I don't know what it is. This is where years ago it was more simple. You could just say, oh, it's this. But now we're working on so many layers, so we don't really know what it is. And then also going down into the base program as in kind of, if we are going to create businesses, as with the PayPal account or with the subscription I was trying to make, or when we look up information in learning and research. Well, if we are going out on YouTube trying to look something, you might not experience it. But my reality is, and it always is, has been for a while actually, and not always, but it is now always like that. There are things I can look into, there are things I can't look into. And I get the warning straight away, as in kind of either get buzzed. That's typically insectoids that are telling me you're not welcome here. So I get this, just kind of, okay. And I get confused, or I get negative energy. I get dark ones coming in. I get dark cubes coming in. And then I feel all miserable and despair, and I have residuals of that. So there, for me, there are some pretty severe ramifications of looking into the wrong websites, which those of you who've been working with me for years or been sending me, look at this and how that exciting that is. And I'm always responding, no, thank you. If I need to look something up, at least I'll choose my own battles and not what people are sending to me. It could be good information, but it might as well just be some faction that is sending, that make that student think, I need to send this to Randy. And then I get that link and then I get completely shitstormed, which is my general experience. So it's being used against me as in kind of curiosity really killed the cat. So the cat does not have 9 lives because it was stupid enough to go on the internet and look up stuff it shouldn't have looked at, and then bam, it was out. Sorry about that, but that's not poor cat. But but that's how it is, and we need to figure out, okay, if we are going to do this, what do we then look into? What shouldn't we look into? And it would probably be more simple for you, but it's not simple for me. It's not as in kind of, I'll just do the survey on the internet. I can look into whatever I want to. Yeah, doesn't work that way, and I feel it pretty quickly, and there are some pretty severe consequences from it, especially if you're still part of the 4th cycle. So when I'm up in the 5th cycle, I'm looking at things that are more connected to the 5th cycle, and I get the understanding of what to look into. I get that information from within. Whereas within the 4th cycle, we're just doing the Google search, right? And then we get into all sorts of trouble because we just, that looks exciting, instead of actually, not only do we need to look at, is it actually virus free, right? Is it secure to go into that website, which is also important. But the understanding of now we are dealing with AI that are taking over the internet clearly, and we are no longer talking about just little types of algorithms and simple things. It's much more advanced, which is what I talk about in the cyber wars. Things have gone completely in a different direction than what we know of. We are not even on top of how much AI that are now in operation, and there is this multiplication factor where we can say, or the amplification vector as well, multiplication factor and amplification vector because of the event program. And that is that all of these algorithms, they are beginning to join together in clusters. And that's why we are having issues right now with a lot of stuff. And PayPal is built upon a high degree of AI and algorithms. And so are other stuff. And it's connected to SpaceX because you remember who created PayPal? That was Elon Musk. And whatever he's going, and his projects are now falling apart or what have you. So there are all of these things that are playing in. So in our learning processes of learning and research, it's going to be a little bit of a mind area experience, as in, I want to go from here to there, but there are minds all over the place. So how do I get there? How do I find the best way to actually get my own business up and running, or my project up and running? What do I need to know? What do I need to learn? And that's why even though that Coursera.org has a lot of different universities that are adding in from all over the world, it is university level. There are certain rules about university. They are the old guard. They are the old world order institutions, and they can have pros and cons going with them as well. It's not just, it's just safe to do so, because they're still under different factions, all depending on what country we're talking about. But there are certain rules around what is allowed within the institutions of education as so far as it is now. Because if all of these things are no longer done by humans that are teaching, but are beginning to be artificially voice over, algorithm, AI run videos and podcasts, well, then it kind of goes without saying, yeah, don't listen to that one, because then it's AI run, similar as we find on YouTube, where we have, it's no longer humans. It's a kind of an algorithm. It's an avatar. It's an AI voice. It's artificial all the way through and through. And then you don't even know if that information originally came from a human or is pure AI. So I want to put a warning out there for those of you who are thinking, oh yeah, no, this is just, this is okay, let me put an example. For instance, Lisa Renee. I know she is, because I can hear it's her voice, but she has recorded her voice, similar as the technology that was used with Stephen Hawking and some of the other ones that suffers from this locked-in syndrome, where their entire central nervous system breaks down, right? So, but, and they lose their ability to talk, and then they record the voices that they used to have, and then they put it in, and then that voice will be the reading voice, similar to the artificial voiceovers that we have. And then she can just type whatever she want to type, and then she put it into the machinery, and then she doesn't have to read the entire newsletter. She can just put it into and let the AI do it for her, or let the voiceover do it, or the read up or whatever, which is then done by machines, right? So, but when we have that out, that it's you can hear it is a recorded voice, because there are certain things there that you can hear. It is, yes, it's a real human that used to read it. But when does that real human cease to exist, and how much can that AI take over? And then we don't even know if that person is alive anymore, if that person is not out there, if that person is not on, and we don't even know with the whole, if you have a visual on it, is it an avatar? Is it something we know now with the whole photoshopping and that extreme level of creating, fake news and fake imagery and fake this and fake that and all of this? We don't really know anymore that is it actually really human beings, or is it just AI that are now running the show? We don't really know if that's the news reporter, or if it's some artificially made up construction. I forgot what it's called in English, where they have this false imagery. It is an avatar that's made for the purpose with a voiceover. Is it the news, or is it some kind of AI that have concocted it by looking into social media and news and what have you, and then put it together as we see it with QAnon? So where are we with this one? So that's part of the learning and research as well. Don't take for granted anymore that it's a human. It might not be. Don't take, I'm still here. Yes, absolutely. I'm still real. But you can have anything that can say that, which means that how do we discern? How do we know? Technically, for those of you who are not sensitive enough, it's going to be a little bit of a difficult challenge, because if you can't read behind the voice, if you can't read the code systems behind the voice, if you haven't got the holographic vision, if you haven't got the insight into what you're dealing with, you will just do what we could call a habitual pattern of you have been accustomed to the most of your life until recently, that most of the things you found out there were made by humans. And now you need to adjust to the whole fact. Not anymore, people. You don't know, so you need to be mindful. You need to look into this. This is part of the transhuman agenda that are rolling over the world. What is going on? Whatever we're seeing, Putin could have been gone and dead for a long time. What is running now, dark cubes and clones and what have you, we don't know. And this is so extreme that it becomes a little bit scary. But it is a mindset that we need to begin to exercise when we are doing our learning and research on the internet. What are we actually tapping into? And now it's not just about entities and parasites and insectoids and artificial fourth dimension and grays and what have you. Now we're suddenly dealing with AI, because it's coming in, and that's what I'm feeling right now. That's part of the cyber wars and some things that are happening right now, and that's to the extreme. So we could hope that they will get it under control from the fifth cycle races, the enhanced humans, because if that runs amok, then we end up in the futures they're trying to avoid. So unless they get it under control and learn to set some parameters and perimeters for what is allowed, set some boundaries, what is allowed when we talk about AI, because right now humans are just using AI here and there and everywhere because it's so fucking right? It's just, yeah. Supercomputers, quantum computers. I'll talk about that in the Who's update as well. What's the difference there? And they're just all this kind of completely mind blown, as if all sci-fi movies had never been made, thinking, yeah, we got this, right? Yes, yeah, men and their gadgets, right? I know females are on board with that one, because sometimes even though they have female body, they're not necessarily females, especially if they're the hybrid kind. So they are all about, let's get this implemented, because the insectoids and the greys and what have you, they want that implemented because that's how their worlds are running. So that's also part of that understanding when we do learning and research, as in, yes, we need the information, but how are we mindfully dealing with that? And when I say mindfully, I mean both words, as in kind of being mindful about it, as in kind of be observant. Don't just do habitual pattern. This is just everybody on the planet are good people, as I always say. And now we had the extra on top of it, as not only do we have the factions that will either say yes or no, but we also have the AI now that are swarming the internet and taking over and overriding everything and creating a lot of stuff that we don't really know what it is. And if we are playing with the idea that we are now working, for instance, project management, and we do a course material that's completely AI generated, that is connected to a supercomputer. Well, what does that then mean? What type of energy will we actually then be learning and working with? What will that do to our neural network when we study that material? Will we be linked up to the supercomputer and become some extension of it as an iRobot? What do I know? Cyborg kind of thing. Because that's what some of the things I felt when I worked the whole PayPal experience. I got more and more confused. I got more and more dizzy. I got more and more. And then I woke up next morning and I felt like a complete cyborg, because the pattern that had been put in had then overnight recreated itself as a kind of nanotechnology cyborg, interactive hollow overlay into my energy system. And I had to break that down. And if I hadn't been observant of that, how far would it then have gone? How much would it have solidified and began to run into all of my codes? And then I would no longer have viable codes, but would have cyborg codes and link up to the AI worlds. We don't know. This is important information to deal with when we talk about working with the internet and working and searching for information out there. And what you will then say, well, when you will then not use PayPal anymore? And I'll say, well, that's a good question. But I don't really have any alternative, because when I was trying to link up to a subscription, here in Denmark that were based upon the Danish banking system, and it threw me off because they run on AI too. So it's everywhere. So no, we need a new skill set. Again, with this whole, when we're choosing to be change makers inside the base program, we must be chaos pilots, we must be path cutters, we must be survivors, we must constantly make the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threat analysis, where we constantly look into, okay, what are we dealing with here? What are the strengths of the AI? What are the weakness of it? What are the opportunities? How can we use that? Can we actually recreate some kind of interaction potentials without becoming cyborg, without being overridden, because that's what they do, without being part of the transhuman agenda, but it's definitely there, at least for the next 10 years somehow, because the parallel universal matrix races are using it and running over America with it. So they are coming in that way, and they're coming in from other places, because humans and their gadgets, right? They just want, oh, this is so fun, this technology, especially the males are all about this, this and whatever. Females a little bit more kind of, yeah, but I know there are females out there are completely linked up to technology. So we don't really, in my generation, there were these different programs that defines differences between males and females, but the next generations, the newer generations, well, I don't really know. There are different species, right? So just to put that one in without saying anything good or bad, or without giving any certain advice and say, this is how we deal with it, because we are now in so much uncharted territory where the solutions I had 5 years ago no longer applies. That's also, some of the things I was very adamant about, I'm just letting them go, because now it's so much more complex. And the only thing, as I talk about in the host updates as well, the only thing we can do is our energy work. That's the only thing we can be on top of. Whatever comes our way, we need to learn to deal with it. We need to learn to clear it out. We need to learn to recalibrate ourselves and then wake up next day and do the same thing and onward and so forth until the different processes are over, until the different experiences, the different bands of energy, the different cycles, the different remnant energies, the different reloopings, the different collapse, the different this and that, whatever is done with, and then hopefully we'll get out on the other end and have survived it all. So that ties in, of course, when we talk about patterns, processes of pattern creation, because we are in this weird environment where nothing is really the same day after day. For instance, today, because of all the stuff that happened with PayPal that pushed me into a different timeline and all of these kind of things, I'm a bit of a mess right now, to be honest. If I think about the Food, Health and Environment project that I began and I put in, these are the ideas I want to work with. I have experienced this before, but then it's just, that's on a different timeline. That's a different energy system. I'm not in connection with them. I was kind of standing over here. Hey, that version of me is over there and I'm here and that project is over there and I'm here. And should I tie to it? Should I just demolish it and begin on this timeline? Is this timeline where I'm supposed to be? Is it a good timeline? Is it a bad timeline? Should I get out of this timeline? Should I just demolish the old reality field, energy system, relative reality, whatever I put out there? Is that the one I want to, and I'll look at it from the outside and say, yeah, there are pros and cons. There's some things that were good. There are other stuff there I don't really want to connect to so bad, so I should just demolish it and then look into what is out there and not what is on the internet, but actually go out there, which I'm beginning again, picking up on some of the, in 2007 and onward, I was working a lot with nature, and I've just was into the woods yesterday where I came into this area where trees have been chopped down, and there was this agony and pain from a lot of what we call tree fairies and old TG remnant genetics that were floating around that needed to be released, that had clustered up and become entities. So that's technically what the astral entities are, and releasing them and then get rid of that pain. But what does that mean for our environment, that we have this demolishing of nature? What does that mean for our environment? What are they trying to do? Is it terraforming? Is it just local taking out spots where we actually have a higher viability rate, or the original density 2 middle domain type of energy? What's going on here? So that's part of the environment. And at the same time, I also talk about in the higher order systemic energetic updates that we have shifted into a blue light sun. We're no longer in a white light sun. We're in a blue light sun. And earlier in the material, I was talking about that we had, as we shifted out to the outer domain, we would also have lunar energies. In some sectors, the sun is radiating lunar energies because that's part of the planetary elements that are similar to the ones of the moon. Are they being ignited by the blue light, or are they being cleared by the blue light? Is the blue light similar to the blue light stars we have in the Pleiadian system that then plays into the fifth cycle outer domain? Is it only for those of us who connected to the fifth cycle that we see the sun as a blue light, and by that our relative reality will allow us to work with food and everything we have in a different manner, because our field is a fifth cycle field, and by that are connected to the blue light properties of the sun, which will then affect how we are working with the food that we have between our hands, because then we will ignite that relative version of it that's from the future. So these are also some of the things that I need to take into consideration when we talk about the Food, Health and Environment project, because is it from the fourth cycle or the fifth cycle? And to be honest, I don't want to work with the fourth cycle. It's collapsing. Everything's collapsing there. I just want to get into the fifth, where things are absolutely much more scientifically advanced and much more complicated. But at the same time, at least there's not all of that chaos and collapsing and entropy and distortion and astral plane entities and what have you, because that I've been working with that since 2007. I'm a little bit over it, to be honest. It's not that interesting. So the processes of pattern creation will be different if you're stuck in the fourth cycle or if you're in the fifth cycle. So in the fourth cycle, it would be like bouncing balls. It would be like being thrown into the deep end of the pool, where you will be hit by water balloons and cannonballs and firecrackers and whatever that will come your way, where you're trying to create a pattern of without drowning. And in the fifth cycle, it will be all of these rules of engagement and what are the futures and what do we need to do. It will be expanded in a different way, but it will also be limited. There will be certain things you can do and a lot of stuff you can't do, because most of the things things that you are right now have learned and what you have been accustomed to doing is in the fifth cycle, you will be the elephant in the china shop, because you have not yet gotten to that understanding. How do you actually work with fifth cycle energies? How do you actually work with your energy system as an architectural construction where you become the pattern you want to create? You become the map of what you want to exemplify. You become the version of what you want to put in motion. So that's also part of whenever I try to get there, and all of the things that are being thrown at us to get us back into the fourth cycle, where whoever's connected to us, whatever parasites that are still in our field and whatever's going on, will try to keep us there and make us believe that, yes, whatever we used to do as part of 10 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever, within the spiritual communities, yes, that's where we want to go, but not really, because it's fourth cycle. And it's difficult to let go of these habitual patterns of, yes, this is how it used to be, and this is what used to make me happy, and I'm a little bit romantic, not romantic, but what you call it, a little bit sentimental. Sorry about that. A little bit sentimental about working with nature in that manner. And I had to really get myself, when I was standing there with the tree spirits, I had to upgrade, saying, yeah, no, this is about releasing them. This is not as I used to do in 2007. I had a different methodology there. And this is releasing. They need to be released. It needs to be cleared. It needs to be transformed. This is actually grid work, Randy Green. This is not you being all soaked in nature spirits and fairy tales and what have you, which is, I enjoyed it for a while, but I also remember back in 2007 until 2009 when I was working with nature in that way, I completely lost my footing. Completely. You get, it's like, it's the coolest trip ever, but it's not very conducive. It's not very productive. It's difficult to run a business if you're all high on astral entities, right? You can't really do that. So there are these different understandings. Okay, how do we do this? If we choose to work with the environment, for those of you who might get your own farm, or you might work with the soil or plants or whatever, you will be susceptible for whatever's left of these original LP of 2 run amok genetics that are now being merged into nature and are becoming, or were part of the plants and the trees and what have you in the soil. The soil will be underworld energies due to the worms and the critters or whatever's going on there. And then you have the plants that are kind of astral plane entities and fairies and tricksters and what have you, because they are little cheeky ones that will do whatever they can to connect to you and then be part of you. And they will be like these little children that are having their heyday and super birthday party in your energy field, right? Yoo-hoo-hoo, balloons, and you will completely lose it. And it will be very difficult to keep your mind focused on what you want to create, which is how I feel today. So that's also why I'm doing this here. And while I'm in all of that mess, so I clear it out while I'm talking about it, while I'm addressing it, while I'm looking at it, and clear it out and say, yes, you are cute little critters, but you do not belong in my energy system. This is the gate. That's the door out. Off you go. You don't belong here anymore. You're not beings. You are remnant genetics that needs to get out and take down the cubes and whatever's connected to it. So that's part of our pattern of creation. When we say, okay, the pattern of creation is the idea that you have, that you put into vibration using your vibrational field from where you begin to understand what's the purpose of what you want to create. What's the function of what you want to create? And that's a fifth cycle feature. It needs to have a purpose. It needs to have a function. So that means it has to have some kind of transformative function. It must transform something from a lower state of energy to a fifth cycle state of energy. Or if you want to be part of the original project on the ancient ones, then it's still the fifth cycle, but then it's the fifth cycle under the ancient ones. But the criteria to get under the ancient ones, and that's why, first and foremost, we created the LPU, because the ancient ones, this construction, the original one, that was for the superhuman, super quick ones that ran through. The ancient ones, they were very, very organized, very, very focused, and they ran through their cycles in what we could say an expedited speed that for most were not really possible. But they created all of these fantastic teaching systems, all of this fantastic technology, and that's why we put the LPU here, because that was available here, which were not available in the holographic metaverse that is also one of the constructions under the ancient ones, but it's a dissimilar one, where this one had been dormant for a while because it was in the outskirts and very close to the third cycle, and thereby nobody had really dared to use it to avoid the close connection to the third cycle, because there was this still pull from it, which we now know is why things have gone the way that they have gone and why it ended up as it has ended up. So we could say, look, in hindsight, was it the right place to put it? We had to, because of the ones that had not made it in the holographic metaverse. Okay, so the laggards that needed the LPU to get up to speed. So the process of manifestation will then be kind of, how do we then manifest things in this weird world of chaos, in this weird world of stuff that we don't really know what is and where it's going and what are we dealing with? And that's a very good question, because right now I would say, how well am I doing in manifesting things into physical reality? I'm manifesting on the internet, aren't I? All of my materials on the internet. Everything I'm doing is in virtual reality. Is that manifestation? It's manifestation on the internet. It's manifestation in virtual reality. Is it manifestation in physical life? It needs humans to be manifested into physical life. But is it even manifesting into physical life? Only if people take it, implement it, adapt to it, change the psychodynamics, implement it as part of their psychological structure, and use it in their everyday lives. My service, whatever I'm selling is psychology. It's energy, psychology, personal development that changes the way we perceive reality, perceive ourselves, and perceive others. So that's a service that is non-tangible. But it is still put into manifestation. I've created a product. I've created course material. I'm doing the podcast. I put them into video or podcast material. It's uploaded on Vimeo. People get an email. People get a PDF with the text material, onward and so forth. I'm using YouTube. I'm using different social media to get it out there, which is point number 5. So I am definitely putting it out there. It is definitely manifested, and it is definitely exemplified because I'm doing it myself every day. I'm living by the words I've created. I'm living by the mythology I've created. I'm living by everything I have exemplified in all of my text material and all my course material, on all of the podcasts I've made and the videos I made. Everything, my entire life is an exemplification of my product. I am my product. So it's based upon everything that I've experienced in my own life and with others, and what others have told me, the work with my clients as a healer, my work with the clients as a psychotherapist, work with the students, and all the things. That's the product. And it has been exemplified. It has been talked about in conversation. It has been shared with other people. They have integrated. They have tried to live by it. They have discarded it. They have chosen what they need. They are working with it. They are studying it. So it is exemplified every single day in different variations, not to the degree I would like, but we are in a difficult reality compared to in 2017. I was enormously ambitious. I thought, yeah, we can do this. Yeah. And now here, 5, 6 years later, I'm a little bit less ambitious and just say, okay, clearly this takes time. So this is more about trust the process. Trust the process. Whatever is going on, we are working with it a little bit here, a little bit there, working with the patterns of change. Whereas in 2017, I thought if you just do this, then we would get to the goal, which I now know that's the linear thinking. And clearly that's not how it works. We need to work with the pattern. We need to, today we're working there, tomorrow we're working there, because we have the biofield, the emotional field, the mental field, the 6-layer energy system, the higher levels. All of these things play in when we're talking about creating something. And that also plays into the manifestation, because can what I'm creating even be manifested in the base program? When we talk about what I'm working with, the density energies, and what's the base program is frequency energies, can it then even be manifested? Probably not as an item. Yeah, I could create a cup where I have one of my slogans on or something. That would be physical manifestation. Or a book, as I used to do. That was physical manifestation. But I've let go of the book material because you can't, once it's manifested into matter, you can't really upgrade it. Yes, I could upload a whole new manuscript, but what would be the point of taking the old books and updating them? It would be easier to create completely new books. And then you would have, then you won't have the background. So again, with this, once it's manifested into literal physical manifestation, it is unchangeable. It only has one path from there, and that's to go into entropy. And that's what we're seeing with my books. You have it on your shelf, and it will begin to be yellow, and paper will begin to deteriorate, and eventually it will cease to exist and rot and what have you. So thereby also my choice of saying, no, it's better to do it as I'm doing on YouTube or on Vimeo or whatever. Once the material is outdated, I can erase it. I can just delete it. Push the button, delete forever. Yes, please. And it's gone. And then I can make something new, where I then integrate a newer version of it. Again, the process product. So the process of manifestation should be, in my opinion, a manifestation that is changeable. As we talk about iteration, we talk about upgrading, we talk about the processes. And for me, as reality is, certain things need to be manifested physically, but would I be one of the ones that would create an architecture and create some physical matter that is shoveled around in some kind of item? No, I'm all about the ideas. I'm all about the density energies. I'm all about changing this reality to go back to its holographic state, even though I know it's probably not going to be in my lifetime, but at least I will do what I can to clear the path that will lead to the ability, the possibility of creating the original outer domain, whether it will be created so that when I leave this physical form, the Truman Show, I'll be reborn, quote unquote, I will shift into that, I will slide into that, I will transfer into that, I'll do the transition into that, because I've built the original energy system. I've created the architecture that allows me to shed off this form and then continue into the fifth cycle and there recreate a new form. Or by some of the enhanced human are being put into one of their fifth cycle forms, if that's what they choose to do, hijack me and put me into some form there, which is similar to what has happened as I got into this one, right? Because once we're out of the physical form inside this reality, it's a little bit of difficult to navigate to the right gate system. So hence again, the exemplification that we need to do is technically the architecture of our energy system. And that's also where we must keep doing the difficult choices, as in how much should we focus on stuff inside the base program? How much should we do there? And if we do choose to do that, if we do choose to go on some little holiday trip into jurisdiction where we shouldn't have gone and get shitstormed and get overridden and taken over and completely manipulated and cloned and harvested to the ground, well, what do we do then? Yeah, cool vacation. I got a lot of sun on my skin. Yeah, but you completely demolished your energy system. Should we then go on that vacation? Is it worth it? Right? Should we try to go against the factions just because we're stubbornly thinking, I want to exercise my human rights? And what rights? Did you ever have any? Right? So this is also, again, when we talk about not being habitual in this kind of, I used to have this idea I could do whatever I want to do. No, things are changing. You can't anymore. Things are different. You need to work differently with the reality. This is not just about you and your ideas of what you want to do or what you want to create or what you want to achieve and what you feel is the right thing for you to do because that makes you feel good on a human level, base program, human level. Depends on what you want to do. Do you want to be part of the fourth cycle base program? Yeah, go for it. Do your vacations, do your whatever you're doing that you feel is that what you want to do inside this reality. But if you want to kind of work with a different level, if you want to get up into energy or into the higher levels of consciousness, then the choices must be different. And that also includes what we choose to create. So that's part of the new business structure as well. We need to not just about come up with grand ideas of how to make this world a better place, which is part of it, but what is a better place, right? So looking at things as they are out now, what are the solutions for all of that chaos? How are we going to, right? So we need to have a little bit of a different approach to that one. And that's why we work with energy. And that takes so much longer and more time. Plus, when we work with these subtle energies, we're working in a different type of energy structure, whereas the base program is in another structure. And we're then up against the factions and the control systems they have and whoever's left and whoever's coming, whoever's going, and all of these new reality challenges that we have. So there are no simple, this is how to do it, even though they're the next steps, but the next steps are all processes. So that's why I put it as in kind of, these are not the steps to do this A, B, C, D. No, these are the processes of learning and research. What does that mean? It is an experience you need to upgrade into. You need to master that type of experience of learning and research on a virtual reality platform where you're dealing with a lot of different stuff. The process of pattern creation is all about your own energy system, your own exemplification of your energy system, how you live by your energy system, how you are your energy system, how you technically are your product in some way, some form, which means that if you choose to be the one that sells something that is physically manifested, it must be part of your everyday life as well. You must utilize it yourself. The process of manifestation, on what level, what is the right approach, what should be manifested, what does it mean to manifest, as we talked about. Is it something you have between your hands, or is it something that's only virtual manifestation? What does that then mean? Is it manifested because you created the pattern, or is it manifested because you have it on a piece of paper? These are some of the learning processes as well. And then the processes of exemplification, which I've covered, as in you have to be what you produce. You have to exemplify it yourself. You have to utilize it. You have to talk with others. You have to verbalize it. You have to make others believe in your idea and exemplify it as part of your idea. If you're the only one creating it, well, then it's not really exemplified, but you're the first one to do it. You're the role model of your product, so to speak. The process of getting out there, what does that mean? Social media, virtual reality, white paper, sending things around, sending flyers around, putting up in the library, going down the street, sing a song. What does that mean? How do you get out there? What is meaning getting out there? And it all depends on your product, of course. And then the process of implementation, and that is to put it into some kind of platform from where you can sell it. Similar as the HAL Academy. That's my platform from where I can sell it. That's my platform from where I put out my product. That's my platform for iteration. That's my platform for marketing. That's my platform for getting it out there. That's my platform for manifestation and pattern creation and learning and research. So my platform has all of these things in it. And that's the website and the YouTube channel. Everything I've been making are part of that. These different processes where I play with different scenarios, where I play with different steps that lets all of this complex information come into some kind of manifestation, exemplification. It is pattern created. It is getting out there. It is implemented into the virtual reality by people working with it. And they are then taking it that step further into their everyday life. And by that, taking it out of the virtual reality and putting it into the Truman Show or the base program where it becomes part of their everyday life. So that's how I will put these steps. There is so much more to it, but I think that suffices for now. So next podcast, we'll go into the bullet point C, the HAL Changemaker alternate reality creation. And there I'll do a little bit of linear step 1 to step 1 to 8, how to do that. And you can use it as a dynamic, as a method, but of course as a recipe. And eventually, once you master the recipe, you begin to cook the dinner, the dish in the way that you want to do it. You can add in different kind of seasonal herbs and what have you, different forms of vegetables, and just to use the recipe analogy here. So it's not this is the only way to do it, but it's definitely one way you could get a product out of it. And we'll talk about that in the next podcast. Thank you.